is an incredible athlete. He is a superstar.
Back then, I was like,
I believe in offer you a lot of money.
All right, here's the deal, folks. You ever hear of something called an anxiety attack? You go to give a speech, right? Right before you go to give a speech, your heart starts pounding, your palms are sweaty, you got weird white stuff, and I don't even want to talk about that. Well, let's do this. I was debating whether I would actually disclose this on the air, but I'm going to disclose it because we're that kind of show. I know a little bit about Seymour's work because a few months back, I decided to, I logged onto the website, not the website, the internet, and I was looking at this whole thing about anxiety or panic disorder, all these things, because I was watching Tony Soprano and he's experiencing all sorts of panic and anxiety disorders. And here's what really happened. One time before a speech, and I give speeches all the time, and I'm on the air all the time, I'm a public broadcaster, a communicator, I felt a degree of anxiety. I felt my heart pounding, my palms started getting sweaty, and I got very uncomfortable, and I got freaked out because it wasn't supposed to happen to me.
Sure.
And then it happened again right before I was going on the air live at another network, at the Fox News channel. And I thought, that's it, something's going on. And I checked around and I found out my mother, my father, my two sisters, my wife also tells me that she experiences it. And I said, what is it? Is it a family thing? And I started checking around because I wanted it to go away. And I came across your website. I'm not alone.
Not at all. I mean, in the case of performance anxiety or stage fright or fear of public speaking, the figures that we hear...
Performance anxiety has nothing to do with sex, right?
Well, I think it can be used in that context. The context
not for
in which
me, I just want to be clear.
Who would have imagined? But performance anxiety in the sense of anxiety about a performance, a speech, or some people experience it in meetings, in a business context, for instance. We hear, there are some statistics saying it's 63% of the adult population.
What do they feel?
I don't know. What do they feel?
Why is the heart pounding?
All of the... I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist. Okay, so the work that we do is teaching people a model of how their mind is working, and we get great results with it. But our model says that the thinking comes first, and that all the physiological symptoms follow it. We're supposed to experience fear. It's a normal, natural human system. We're supposed to experience it when a herd of elephants are running towards us at 100 miles an hour.
It's a good idea to run.
Or a truly dangerous dog might be attacking you. That's appropriate. But it's not appropriate, you know, before ambling into a meeting or before going on on Fox Network for the 400th time.
By the way, you told me that you experienced it recently. We'll share that later, but go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's happening is fear always comes from imagining bad stuff. In other words, if
I have a bad memory of something that happened at some other point.
Well, it's always consciously or unconsciously because the mind is running through worst case scenarios. Yeah. So in other words, if someone says, "Okay, I have this meeting coming up, and I'm going to get in there and I'm going to cream it. They're going to love my presentation. We're going to close the deal. It's going to be worth $16 million. I'll be able to buy my fiancée a ring that's 3 times the size." They're not going to feel bad about it. Right? They're going to feel great because that's the thinking that goes with, that's the feeling that goes with that kind of thinking.
So the adrenaline is being channeled in a positive direction?
Yeah. So the feelings come from the thinking, right? If they think, "Oh God, this meeting's so important. You know, if I mess this up, it's gonna, it could cost me my promotion. Could cost me my job. My goodness, you know, sales are down this month. What if I lose my job? What if? And so they start asking themselves, you know, what happens if I mess this up? Rather than how much good can I do by getting it right. And the mind will always respond to the questions that we ask.
How does the body then respond to the mind doing all these weird things, saying, "Oh my God, this is it. If I screw up, my career is over, bad things will happen." What happens to the body?
Sure, you get the physiological symptoms, and they vary from individual to individual. Some people will, will foam at the edge of the mouth. You joked at the beginning, but some people will experience, you know, changes in the, often a kind of a dry mouth. Some people will get a wetter mouth. Some people certainly get wetter palms of their hands.
Perspiring.
Exactly.
There are some people on our staff, listen, don't hide in the control room. Their necks get red. Their faces get red.
Sure.
What's that about?
It's just different people responding in different ways. Different people have their own physiological makeup because all bodies are slightly different. Everyone's been eating slightly different stuff. Everyone's has different levels of fitness and so on. And there'll be, I believe, a genetic predisposition to be blushing rather than sweating or whatever.
Sure.
But people have their own collection of ways in which they respond, but it always comes from the thinking first of all.
What do you do?
Well, in the moment, one of the things that we teach, and this is something, I mean, most of the stuff we do takes a little longer to set up, but there's one thing that I can teach you.
By the way, we're going to put up your information so people can, we're going to have people go to the website, Mary? We're going to do that? We're going to drive people to the website just so you know.
Great.
But let me set this one up for you, because there are a few different, do we want to talk about anchoring, or is that not a good thing to talk about right now?
We can talk about what it is. I'm not sure that we have enough time to teach it.
How about the real
really
fast one then?
Well, a real fast one is something we call the pattern interrupt.
Pattern interrupt?
Pattern interrupt.
Give me an example.
Pattern interrupt is something that we've all experienced. I mean, all of this stuff is stuff that we've all experienced many, many times, but just kind of without knowing about it. And we'll talk about anchoring in a minute, because that's very cool. And we've all done it 1,000, 1,000,000 times in our lives. But a pattern interrupt says that whenever we get into a fear response to something, so if one has a pattern of getting nervous before flying, right, or getting nervous before a meeting, or not wanting to go in that room because there might be a spider in it, right, and one's sitting there experiencing fear, in order to maintain the fear, one has to keep the same pattern of focus and physiology. And by focus, I mean what's going on in the mind, and physiology, I mean what's going on in the body. And we've all heard that you should breathe more slowly if you're feeling a little bit nervous, and that's great advice, by the way.
Does it help?
It makes just changing the breathing will make a difference. I mean, if the problem is a 9 out of 10 problem, it'll maybe chip it down to 8 out of 10.
Okay.
So it's great. It's a good thing to do. It's good advice.
And when you, by the way, Mary, our producer, just asked, what do you mean by 9 out of 10? You mean on anxiety level?
We call that the kind of the sort of self-diagnostic scale. In other words, you're saying out of 10, how bad is the fear to me right now?
10 means I can't do this. I got to get out of the room right now.
10 is I have to run. 0 is nothing.
Okay.
And before going on air, maybe you were experiencing a little bit of a 4 and thinking, well, hang on, this isn't appropriate because I'm a media professional, whatever.
And that's how I'm going to tease you by saying, don't be fearful. Don't have any phobia about what's about to come. Be anxious. Be enthusiastic, because Seymour is going to share with us more secrets as to what to do for the millions of Americans, all of us, I'll include myself, who at one degree or another experience unnecessary but very real anxiety around all sorts of things. Stay with us. We'll be right back.